they would have like 24-hour like helpline, and they had pharmacies on call. So if you spoke to an advisor about your delivery or a side effect or whether you should delay your treatment, they could put you through to a pharmacist, and you could ask all these sort of questions, which is like really important with biologics because you get lots of infections. And the amount of times I would use that, because it'd be 9 o'clock at night, I was due to take my biologic. It was maybe a Friday, so you couldn't get through to the hospital for 2 days or the doctors for 2 days. So having that option was awesome. And they always delivered everything. You got a phone call from a human saying how many injections you got in your fridge, when are you next due to inject, etc, etc, etc. And everything was easy. And it's gone over to a new provider, and the typical ironic letter which tells you, don't worry, nothing's going to change. Now they're forcing everyone to use an app, and for anyone that's heard me talk at events recently will know my views on that. And I work in IT, so it isn't because I'm against that stuff. I just think the reasons behind creating some of these apps are nothing to do with the quality of care the patient gets. So now you have to, book a delivery day, and then there's live chat on there, which they've now turned off since we've all noticed on Twitter we're all having issues. People aren't having their drugs turn up, and yeah, it is. And like Lou, soon, the Psoriasis Association will. The only reason I haven't done a recording of my own speech from that conference is because Psoriasis Association are going to be posting up. They filmed it all, and I'll share that on my YouTube channel. But one of the things I said in there is about not making apps for app's sake, because everyone who asked me to help in a focus group at the minute, and I do a lot of them now a year, probably do about 9 or 10 a year now, and whenever they're about apps, the actual reason for the app is bollocks. It's nothing to do with improving the outcomes for the patient. It's about either getting rid of human expensive resource, their end, or for monitoring the individual for marketing purposes or whatever. It's absolute nonsense. When my mind is they should be creating these things because there's a need for the patient to have them, not because there's a need for them from a cost point of view or whatever. So basically in the UK at the minute there's clearly an issue. You only have to look at Twitter. There's clearly an issue where people aren't getting their biologics delivered, or they can't get through to a real person. And if you look on the app now for this mystery company called beginning with S, the live chat has turned off now since all these complaints started coming in on Twitter. And so if you're due your biologic and it hasn't turned up, you can't actually get through to anyone. And my big issue with this is happening at exactly the same time is that we've stopped seeing our biologics nurses for many of us. I know that's not the case for everyone, and people across the country get different experiences in the UK because of bloody CCGs. But I went from seeing my biologics nurse every 6 months. If I had a helpline, I could ring them up. They'd call me back the same day, etc., etc. And I had loads of support. So if I got an infection, I had somebody I could ask whether I take it or not, etc., etc. Now I don't have any of that, and I know nice guidelines have sort of slipped to say, well, maybe you don't need to see your biologics nurse every 6 months. Every 12 months will be fine. But in my case, it's been every 18 months. So I've gone from seeing my biologics nurse every 6 months to every 18 months. They are my number one advocate. They are the person that can walk down the corridor, knock on my rheumatologist's door and say, it's going wrong for Joel. They are also the one person who will know that what my benchmark is, what my situation is, and if stuff has changed. My rheumatologists, all due respect to them, are not going to know that. They've been seeing me since I was 12 years old. They see me once a year at best. Let's be honest. If I see them in August and it doesn't get cancelled, it'll be over 700 days. They do not know what is normal for me, when things are going wrong for me, when things are deviating. That's where my biologics nurses come in. So if your biologics nurses have gone AWOL because of the situation and the COVID situation, the amount of people leaving the NHS, the backlog and all them sort of things, which I totally empathise with, you can't have at the same time the provider of the biologics completely going rogue, making you do everything via virtual assistant, having an app that's frankly, going to swear then, but I might use this recording, terrible, and just leaving people on the dark to try and attack a a social media guy, let's be honest, has got no influence. People go mad at people on Twitter. They don't ever consider these people are not decision makers. They can't fix anything. They're basically either social media managers, PR people, or marketing people. They're not even helpline staff half the time. So it feels like it's a really dangerous situation. And yeah, maybe it's the same company, Lou. The letter I got didn't imply it was a rebrand. I must admit, it made it sound like it was switching over from the previous H, shall we say? So I wasn't aware it was a rebrand. I must admit, I'll have to do a bit more digging on that. But I just got a fancy letter saying that it's been switched over to this new company name. But yeah, it's not great.